We're looking at a submission here from ark0n. Thank you for submitting ark0n, and also thank you for helping me out with the sync and so forth. Or anything you can do to help me my job be easier, I really appreciate it. Um, One of the things you're asking about is fast and responsive controls, but you've got some, I would call it oscillation there. If we watch that video, I'll just play it here for a second, but of course everybody can just link back to your original post and watch it themselves if they want to. There is really, that is a classic example of excess P term, and I'm not sure I can really describe very effectively what makes that just scream P term to me, but it does. If it just sounds like P term and looks like P term. So my guess is that you've got too much P gain somewhere, but we'll keep looking, we'll keep digging, and we'll see what we find. I also watched your video, and your video looked really good. Let me get the gyros out of there. Your video looked really good. Your flight characteristics and all look really good. Um, there we go. You know, you seem pretty smooth. You don't see a lot of oscillations here. When you do those turns, there's just a little bit of oscillation that I can hear, but that's pretty normal. You know, that's the whole skidding back through your prop wash thing. There's nothing wrong with that. There were two things I did notice. One of them that I wanted to point out was at about 29 seconds. At about 29 seconds, I'm actually not sure it was very clear there. I saw it when I watched your original video, not in the log player, but just in a video player. Let me try one more time and see if I can see it. It happens at about 29 seconds. Let me just cue it up here. Well, I got to tell you, I'm not actually sure it's as clear here as it was to me, but there's just a little bit of oscillation there as well. It feels to me like excess P term somewhere. Maybe it needs TPA because your throttle was a little bit high, but you were basically flying straight and level, and I heard that same and saw that same oscillation that says to me that there's a little bit of excess P gain somewhere in there. And it's not like you were turning or descending into your prop wash or anything like that. It was pretty much straight, level, smooth flight, and you just throttled up a little bit and it started to oscillate. So that's the kind of thing that might call for some TPA. Now let's just take a second and look at your config dump here. And I see that you're on PID controller 1. Okay, fine. And you've got a pitch P of 4.5 and a roll P of 40 or 4.0. Now, if you're not using a mixer, I'm a little bit suspicious of that. It looks like you're not using a custom mixer. No, you're using Mixer Quadex. So it's a little surprising to see such a similar P and P gain on both pitch and roll. Because of the way the mass is distributed on a mini quad, it's usually the case, and you are flying a mini quad, I assume. Blackout mini quad, yeah, of course. Everybody's flying a mini quad around here. I hate to assume. um, because of the way the mass is distributed on a mini quad, you usually have higher P gain on pitch than roll. If you have a custom mixer, that can even that out a little bit, but you don't have a custom mixer. So I'm a little suspicious that one of these values is not right. And just, are you 4S? Where can I see that? Yeah, you are 4S. So your overall range in the 4 to 5 range is probably I couldn't say much about that. Doesn't stand out as wrong. I couldn't say whether it was right either until we start looking at the traces, but it's a little surprising to me that your pitch and your roll are so similar. So if you've tuned it and you're 100% sure that's correct, then maybe so, but maybe we'll see that some of these oscillations are coming from excess P gain on the pitch or roll axis maybe. Between these two, maybe it would be excess P gain on the roll axis because roll is so high and so close to pitch. Now your yaw is 11. Your yaw P is 11, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's quite normal to see much higher P gain on yaw, and in fact, it's been my experience that having higher P gain on yaw can actually help settle some of the problems we can run into with tuning I gain on yaw and help make the yaw behavior actually better than the alternative. You have to kind of get over this feeling that P gain is way too, oh my gosh, it's 14, it's 15, oh, it's so high. But it can afford to be high on the yaw axis because the yaw has so much less authority, so you kind of need more P. And it's not so much that you want, like on pitch and roll, increasing P gain can improve the sort of responsive and locked in feel of the axis, not the rates per se, but just how sort of snappy it is to respond to stick inputs. But on yaw, you're kind of not going to get that ultra snappy response on most setups, on many setups anyway. But increasing the P gain on yaw affects the I terms. It reduces the need for the I term to get real big and makes the copter come out of turns in a cleaner and more controllable way, as opposed to the I term getting really big during the turn and then sort of having to unwind and make the turn exit really uncleanly and sort of sticky. And so you've got yaw D set at 1. I don't in principle have a problem with that because I am suspicious. I haven't tested this a lot on data, but I'm suspicious that the authority on the yaw axis means that there's less uh, effectiveness of the D term on yaw. But you never know. You never know. I would probably give a little bit of D on yaw just on principle. 10 or 15. It probably won't make things better. It might make things worse. No, I said that backwards. Sorry. It probably won't make things worse and it might make things better. Wow. I don't know what was going on there. Um, and then let's just check your gyro LPF real quick. Where's your gyro LPF? I can never find gyro LPF. Let's just search for it. There it is, 188. Okay, that's what I thought. And then your filters are at 0, 40, and 8. And this is a thing that people have been doing, and I think Boris has even changed the default on this, setting gyro cut to 0 and then lowering P term and D term cut. You may find that D term cut is a little bit low, and I would recommend everybody give an attempt at tuning D term from about maybe 8 or 10 up to about maybe 15 or 16. And you may find that you need to also tweak your P gains up or down a little bit in response to this. But you may find that you get better you get it just as tuned as you possibly can with a D term of 8, and then you turn D term up to 15 and suddenly your crazy oscillations are gone, but then it feels worse in some other way, so now you have to tweak P again. You may find that there's not one sort of optimal stopping point, but that there may be more than one stopping point that produces a different set of good results or problems, and just play with it. I'm no longer as convinced as I was that lower D term is better, because we've seen cases where excess lowering of the D term causes the D term to be so delayed. D term of 8, I don't have the table in front of me, but it might have a delay of 15 or 20 milliseconds, and that can be plenty to cause the D term to not be able to sort of do its job. It's so far behind the P term that it just can't do its job. All right, well, now we're 9 minutes into this video. Let's finally look at some black box, okay? And the first thing I want to look at is your gyros, because when I was looking at them, I saw something very interesting. Did you hear that oscillation? Let's play it again. There's some oscillation there as you turn. That's not so unusual, but wait a minute. Let's see. Oscillation on the roll and a little bit on the pitch. Okay, so we're seeing some oscillation on roll, and that's consistent with what I said about maybe your roll P is a little too high. Here's another example. Okay, again, really obvious P term oscillation on roll. And we're not even looking at the P term yet, but this just really looks like P term oscillation to me. We're going to see if it's true. You are turning, so you are doing the sort of turning, skidding into your own prop wash. Maybe that's the problem here. But given the fact that your roll and your pitch P term were so similar and you weren't using a custom mixer, my hunch is that your roll P is higher than it needs to be. And the fact that we're seeing these oscillations just on the roll axis supports that. Here's that section around 29 seconds that I tried to show you earlier that I wasn't sure it came through. If we look right here, we can see that what's going on. And again, look at what's happening in the flight here. There's really nothing going on in terms of crazy, flips or rolls or turning or prop wash or descending. You're just flying straight ahead, and your roll is going bonkers. Okay, so I think that my hunch is that roll P needs to come down a little bit until this kind of thing stops happening. And I also wonder whether I see here you've got a lot of high frequency noise in your D term. Now that your D term cut hertz is only 8, which means you definitely, I mean, probably shouldn't take that down any lower. That if it's not handled here, I don't know where it's going to be handled. And we can also see the oscillation in the motors is kind of, the motors are really all over the place here. They're all just sort of oscillating, and that's not ideal. So my inclination, what we're seeing here is that you've got gyro noise that's coming through into the D term, and the D term is amplifying it. With D term cut hertz of 8, you really can't filter D term any more than that. It's just going to be further and further delayed. This is not an issue where the phase of D term is a problem. This is not an issue of the phase relationship between D term and P term. What this is an issue of just high frequency noise in the D term. And I think the way you're going to get rid of that is to have some gyro cut. So try a gyro cut of 100 or 120, and then maybe you can even raise D term cut to help reduce some of the latency and get overall better results. Taking gyro cut from 256 down to 100 adds something like 1 to 2 milliseconds of delay. So taking D term cut from 8 just up to 10 will cut out something like 5 milliseconds of delay. So your net delay is actually going to maybe even go down a little bit, but your actual your filtering may get way better because you've got that extra filter on there. And then also, again, if you don't want to play with your filters, just try reducing roll P. The fact that the D term looks really dirty like this may not actually be hurting your flight very much, although we do see that coming out in the motors a little bit, and so the motors may be wasting a little bit of energy. But overall, I mean, the video looks good. The copter looks like it's flying really smooth. The motors sound a little rough, but I mean, we're really nitpicking at that point. All right, so that's my suggestion. Everything else in I looked at some other stuff, looked at your pitch and your yaw, and it all looks pretty decent. Your pitch looks okay, nothing jumps out. The biggest thing I see is your roll axis. The first thing I would suggest is to reduce P a little bit and see how you like that. Knock it down maybe to maybe 3.5 perhaps, and then depending on what else you're looking for, maybe tweak your filtering. And if you decide to do that, I would say take gyro cut to 100 and then take D term cut from 8 up to 10. You should get less latency overall, but better filtering on your D term. All right, thank you, good luck, and happy flying.